Hey everybody, this is Joseph Pasek, and welcome to the Fired Up Network. Welcome to the NHL Lowdown. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. Yes, I'm going to announce her again as the Hall of Famer, the icon, the legend, Digit Murphy, the female Don Cherry. And by the way, Digit, make a phone call. See if we could get Don Cherry on here for the last couple games of the Stanley Cup Finals. Now, Digit,
I'll see what I can do.
I mentioned you're the legend, the icon, and everything like that. But boy, you suck at predicting games. I said Vegas will win 6-2. What happens? 7-2.
You are
said
such a liar. You said
no.
you're going with Florida. You said
No,
you
I'm going
didn't
with
know the
Florida in game
score.
3. I said I was going with Florida in game
Yeah.
3. Game
Go
2, I
look at
said
the review
6-2.
tape,
I
Koharski.
reviewed it. I edited it out and everything. I reviewed it and I edited it out. But
Yeah.
anyways, how surprised are you at 7-2?
Okay. Again, I'm going to say the same thing I said the other day. Goaltending did it. Okay. Goaltending. Hill made a couple of key saves in the first period that teetered on, the Panthers getting the momentum and getting their mojo back, right? And then Bobrovsky made one critical error. I think it was at the second goal where he was way in the crease over the shoulder. They had just had an unbelievable flurry down the other end. They should have put it in, and they didn't, meaning Panthers. They come back. They beat Bob. I'm just going to call him Bob. They beat Bob top shoulder over the right side. He wasn't out. He was in the beach. He wasn't on the ocean, as we say. And that was the difference. They went up 2-0, and then it was 3. And you've got to stay out of the box. I mean, it was such a mess for Florida. I don't know. I think Paul Maurice is gonna hit them with a little different energy in Florida. They got to win. They got to win 1 or 2 of these because we got to watch more hockey, man. We cannot have a Vegas blowout. I like Vegas. I like Cassidy, but we can't have a Vegas blowout because then hockey ends too soon.
Well, like I said yesterday, I said Vegas is going to win 6-2. And game 3, no matter what, Florida will take it. We'll get to game 3 in a couple seconds. But Tkachuk. All right, Matthew Tkachuk here. First 3 rounds, controlled, a pest, scoring late goals, scoring big timing goals. This round, through the 2 games, he looks like any Maple Leaf player and playing here. You can't score. You can't. He's taking cheap shots. Thank God, Jack Eichel came in. It was a clean check, but Eichel stumbled a little bit. I thought everybody was talking about his elbow, but I thought it was his knee because he stumbled a little bit, and then thank God it looks like he's okay because that could have been a series-changing hit there.
Yeah, I agree, but the announcers are going over it. It looked like he toe picked. He saw Tkachuk the whole way, and he actually braced himself, and he just went down too early. And I think that the refs called it right. I don't know if they both deserved the 10 misconduct. I'm not sure there, but the refs are trying to get control. Tkachuk is getting a little bit out of control, but I will say that one of the things we always have to come back to, we got to harken back to Bruce Cassidy frustrating Florida. He is frustrating the crap out of them by his defensive structure. Florida is not getting away with their forecheck. They are not getting away with the forecheck they were able to do against every other opponent. Bruce Cassidy has an answer to the forecheck that's frustrating Tkachuk. They're not scoring on their opportunities by not scoring on the breakaway. They're getting frustrated, and this is what you're seeing. So Tkachuk needs to settle down, get into his mindset of scoring goals, and Paul Maurice has to have an answer to the Vegas structured defense.
All right, so through the first 3 rounds, Florida was controlled. They checked you. They didn't give you an inch. These 2 games, it looks like they're not ready for the Stanley Cup Finals, or is that Vegas that good?
Yeah, I disagree. I think it's Vegas playing like a number 1 seed, and I think the Panthers have gotten a little bit out of their rhythm. It could have been because they were off so many days, but they're not making the adjustments. And it's offense. If they start scoring a few more goals, they can get back into that Panther mindset, if you will. Hill has done an outstanding job, and they haven't gotten a lot of puck luck. The first period, I said to myself, they no puck luck, none. And maybe the puck luck has run out for the Florida Panthers. Maybe they used up all their juju, because you know that happens. The hockey gods have a big, 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 big stake in this. And no one believes me, but I have been in all these games, and you can tell when you're on the bench whether you're going to win and lose a game in one period. You just can tell. You don't let the team know, but you're like, holy moly, we're not getting any puck luck. So that's when you have to say to your team, guys, let's dig deep. Let's start early, because as a coach, you sense it, you feel it, you know it. So you have to come up with some kind of tactics that the team can respond.
And let's face it, it's down 2-0. It's not, impossible to do, but right now Florida has to win 4 of the next 5. And
Yeah.
that's in the way Vegas has been playing. That's virtually not impossible, but virtually impossible to do with, Vegas still having 2 games at home. I know they have to go to Florida now on Thursday, Saturday, game 3 and 4. Florida's going to be rocking. Gonna be rocking there, and of course Wednesday, of course they got the Miami Heat there playing in the NBA Finals. So let's look at this before we conclude here. Game 3, and we'll do a preview of it on Thursday. But Game 3, it's do or die for Florida. They're playing at
Do or
home.
die.
Yeah, they have their back. Here's the cliches: their back is against the wall. Take it shift by shift. Keith Kachuk, or Matthew Kachuk has to shave a little bit of his goatee because it looks ugly. All right, and put the mouth guard in his mouth. Not like
No,
what's he chewing?
he won't. He won't. He
No, he
won't.
won't.
Here, what Florida has to do is get back to what they have done well, which is forecheck, 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 quick shots. You don't see them getting that puck. Remember how they beat Boston? They just flipped it up. You don't see that anymore. They are not working the neutral zone, and they have to have an answer on their power play. They're not scoring on their power play. When you're 5 against 4, 5 against 4. That's why they call it a power play. 5 against 3. It's why they call it a power play. You have to answer that. Hill is answering them. The structure of the Vegas PK is crushing the Panthers right now. Florida has to have an answer to that. If not, they're done.
And here's the frustrating thing: if you're Florida, when we started previewing the series, we said the one edge that Florida has is Bobrovsky. He is, but I said to you, Aiden Hill, it could be. And remember, we talked about this Conn Smythe,
Depenza.
and
Yep.
like I said, Aiden Hill right now in Vegas team. Tell me who can win
Yeah.
the Conn Smythe. It's probably him or Stone or maybe
Marchessault, he
Marshall.
keeps scoring. He keeps scoring. Like, he's that sneaky scorer. He's scoring timely goals. I mean, Stone, he's a good leader. The whole like picking up the stick, that was like awesome.
Yeah.
What was that? The 6th goal? That was freaking awesome. But I see Marchessault having those timely goals in the next few games. He starts getting big goals. It's between him and Hill.
Yeah, and if Hill comes up big in Florida to take away at least one game, it comes up to him. But here's the story. I'm going to ask you this: 6 years, Vegas is in the league 6 years. Second Stanley Cup. The first one they lost in 5 games to Washington Capitals, Ovechkin, and all that. But look at the story, and I'm not going to say anything about the Maple Leafs. Okay, 60 years or whatever. But what a story it would be for Vegas. Vegas, like the capital, and you say it all the time, sports entertainment. Is there any other capital other than Vegas for sports entertainment? Winning a
No.
title, and then they just announced that Vegas is having the outdoor game, or Seattle and Vegas are playing the Winter Classic. What a story. I guarantee the NHL will want to be the reigning defending Stanley Cup champions. New Year's Day playing in Seattle, what an atmosphere that will be. But Vegas winning the Stanley Cup, what would that mean for hockey?
I think it's going to mean a lot for hockey, sports entertainment product. We talk about it. Bettman's going to look like a hero. Don't underestimate what it's going to do for Bruce Cassidy. Imagine being a coach that gets released. 6 years you're working in an organization. you all of a sudden are pushed out because whatever it was, the players don't like him, whatever it was, you're too defensive. And then he redeems himself by not only bringing his team to the playoffs yet again. Every time he coached the Bruins, he brought them to the playoffs. Almost, I don't know, maybe not the first year. And then he comes here and wins the Stanley Cup. So you got Cassidy, you got Vegas, you got a bunch of misfits that, I think they have 3 or 4 of those guys left. They've just got a great group, and good for them. But you still have Florida on the other end, could be Destiny's team. So right now you got to give it to Vegas to win the cup, but I'm not going to count Florida out yet. Game 3 is going to come. Florida has to win. It may not be a high-scoring game, but they have to win. It's got to be like 3-2, 2-1.
No,
They've got to shut down Vegas.
We'll do
Oh,
a
yeah.
full
Okay,
preview.
you don't want to know my number. Okay,
Yeah.
zips.
No, don't give your digits
Forget
out, but I have to mention the Greek, okay? I have to mention the Greek, Billy, because he told me off air, he told me, ask Digit this, all right? Last night, they had Wayne Newton do the drum thing or whatever at Vegas, okay? So he wants to know, will Digit Murphy come dressed as Elvis when Vegas wins the Stanley Cup? Thank you. Thank you very
No,
much.
no.
No?
Digit Murphy will not come as Elvis. Digit Murphy will maybe, I don't know, have a little glass of champagne. How about that?
Glass of
Not in the
champagne?
morning.
No,
Not
no.
in the morning.
Don't you like red
I don't
wine?
drink that much.
Red wine. Come on, red wine is
I know I'm an
very good.
Italian. I don't drink. I'm not a big drinker.
All right, so like take us through, and this is a segue here. When you win a championship, why are they drinking beer and all this? Like, what's the tradition of winning a championship? Do you have wine? Do you have beer? Do you like you go out and you party with the ladies and all that? But after it sinks in, do you lie there in the hotel room and say, "We did it," and I have to plan for
Yeah.
next year right away?
Yes. I hate to say it. Like, you maybe the next day you're thinking, especially when you're in college, maybe not when you're in the pros, but you can't stop. If you're a career coach, you're constantly priding yourself on results, and you're constantly thinking, okay, how do I repeat it? Which is really hard. And you put pressure on yourself, which is what makes good coaches great coaches. And no, you don't wait and miss a beat. Like, you're constantly in that next phase of building. But you definitely take that time right at the end. Like, usually, especially if you're on the road, usually on the road, um, not usually, but in women's hockey you are. So you're in the hotel, you're kind of raising hell, in a couple of rooms, and you just kind of having community. You have a sense of community, or you go out to dinner, but you always go back, and like the team goes and does their thing, right? I usually just like hang back, because I'm old now and I don't get involved in that. But I remember one of the years we won the championship, they're like, come on, come on. So, you go in, you say hi, you have a couple of drinks, and that's it. Maybe a beer. That's it. But in college, no, you just have to let them do their thing, because you're constantly recruiting at another level. But I do have a couple of stories back in the 90s that I probably didn't behave as well as I should have, but we'll keep those for another day.
Well, okay, so here's one question that I don't think I have ever asked you. What's your greatest accomplishment
Oof.
and thing that you're most disappointed in that you reached sort of the final and lost, or you know what I mean?
Well, my greatest accomplishment has nothing to do with hockey, but we beat a power plant in my little small town through government. So that was my greatest accomplishment, I think, ever. Um, but my in hockey, I think my greatest accomplishment as a coach was actually getting to the second ever Frozen Four, in the history of women's hockey. And we had went from, our record was 6-6-1.
Hmm.
Uh, we went 19-1-1 from the time we were 6-1. So we ended up going to the Final Four, Frozen Four. First time, I think, and Ivy was there. We lost in the finals. It was just the craziest year I've ever had, and it was the most rewarding team that I've ever been a part of to get there. We didn't win, but we got there, which was unheard of. It was like a storybook. It was like when Vegas got to the Stanley Cup in the first year. Um, and that was awesome. And my biggest disappointment, there's so many disappointments in sports, right? Can you really have a biggest? Because, you know, people would say getting to that Frozen Four and losing is your biggest disappointment. I think it's our biggest accomplishment because we did so much. I think my biggest disappointment, was just maybe one certain games when you get kicked out or something and you act like a jackass, and you're
Yeah.
disappointed in yourself because you're human.
Yeah.
Um, and there's probably a few of those disappointments, but getting to championships is an accomplishment in and of itself, right? And you can't ever look at those as disappointments. I guess it's the kids I didn't reach in college were my biggest disappointments. Like, where did I go wrong not reaching them and not empowering them and not impacting them? Maybe being a little immature as I grew through the ranks and making some really bad decisions. There's a lot of disappointment in sports, but the key is, Joe, is how do you learn from them, grow, and lead out of that disappointing situation? So I hope to be continuing to do this for a long time.
All right, final question as we close out the NHL Lowdown. Digital will be back here for the flagship show, Fired Up Live, to preview Game 3 on Thursday. But let me ask you, what would it take if an NHL team calls you, right? What would it take for you to be convinced to coach or to manage or to even be a scout or to be a special assistant or whatever for an NHL team?
I think the biggest thing that I would look for in any opportunity is if they value you, right? You don't, as a woman, you want to be valued for what you're bringing to the table, not just because you're a woman, or not just, well, I mean, guys do it all the time just because they know people, right? Not just because you know someone. It's, what does the organization look like and how do you fit in? And are you a partner in that organization or are you a box check? And, I think there's lots of NHL teams that could benefit from a woman's mindset. It's a relational mindset. It's an intuitive mindset, and if the pro organizations valued my opinion, a woman's opinion at the table, that's the separator for me. As far as, like, it's not about the money. Like, people would say, oh, they're going to get millions of dollars in contract. I mean, first of all, they probably wouldn't. If they gave a woman millions and millions of dollars, maybe that means they value you. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be at an organization that just is a transaction, just pays you a bunch of money. I just think that's a big difference between women, or some women, um, and a lot of the way that men act in general. I mean, everyone thinks about money, and we think about mission. A lot of women do, and we care about the good. Not that men don't. Men care about the good too.
And so, from being in hockey and you were in lacrosse and all that, is hockey the toughest nut you have to crack, I guess?
No, I think the toughest nut you have to crack is how do you monetize women's professional sports in general? I haven't seen anyone do it yet, and by that I mean the WNBA is funded by the NBA.
Yeah.
Um, until that they kind of can stand alone. I don't think that they've arrived. I think the PHF is trying to do it. I think that the NWSL is trying to do it. I think it's really hard when you want to also do a pay equality platform, because you have to make sure that the revenue is matching the expenses. And when you have high salaries, it drives up the pressure to drive revenue. And a lot of times revenue, Joe, would come from the owners paying it and not necessarily from the fans coming to watch it yet.
Yeah.
So the biggest problem that women's sports have is, how do you solve for that? And I would love to create more opportunities for all professional women's sports. And
All
it's
right.
not just hockey.
There's the bell. That means we have to conclude the NHL lowdown. So, Digit, the final question I always ask: tell them about your opportunity for the young ladies and anything new in the ladies field there?
Well, Play It Forward Sport, we're having our little camping clinic June 26th, 27th, 28th, 2 hours on ice, an hour off ice. It's $200. Sponsor a kid, playitforwardsport.org, playitforwardsport.org. And anyone can call me and set up a program. I will help you do that through the nonprofit because we need more little girls playing sports. It's a health and wellness initiative, and physical and mental mindset is very important for young girls to build confidence, and boys too, but I'm a women's opportunity advocate. So love to jumpstart that. Anyone that wants to call me, we can do something through the nonprofit. We can set up some programs for you. Playitforwardsport.org. And I get all sorts of other businesses, so call me. Let's do business.
All right, and get a hold of her on Digit Murphy, all on social media there. She'll be back Thursday to preview Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals, where Vegas is leading 2 games to none. Thanks a lot, Digit.
Thanks, Joe.